The skill point system in Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon can be quite daunting at first, with hundreds of skills to pick from spread over dozens of categories. So now that I've completed the game and tried a bunch of different builds out, I'm going to share with you my top 20 or so skills that I suggest you grab early on that are pretty universal no matter which build you decide to run. I've gone for a top 12 for magic focus builds and a top 12 for physical focus builds, along with some guidance and direction for where you should take your build next as you progress further into the game. And if you like these guides, make sure you are subscribed to Dom's Roundtable with the notifications turned on so that you don't miss my upcoming videos. In the coming days, along with other guides, I'll also be releasing build guides where I'll be going even more in depth into the skill trees and attribute points themselves and showing you how to create fully fleshed out, overpowered early game builds to help you destroy the Knights of the Round Table, or to help them and befriend them if you prefer. The choice is yours. Anyway, enough waffling, let's jump into magic focused skills first. The absolute first thing I suggest you do is come into the perception tree and pump these 2 points into stealth. Firstly, decreasing noise is great if you are planning on playing a little bit stealthier, but the reason we're pumping 2 points into this tree is for cheat death. Once every 4 minutes, taking lethal damage will instead make you invisible for 5 seconds. This is absolutely huge. A bonus life and a free 5 seconds of stealth every 4 minutes when you would otherwise die. As I've said in my previous videos, if you've been watching all of my Tainted Grail content up to this point, this game does not want to hold your hand and it does not tell you how tough enemies are until you start hitting them. And this will allow you to be a little bit more ballsy and try to take on fights that you otherwise would be scared away from. And on top of that, I'm giving you a little bit of a spoiler alert into my advanced tips video here as well, but cheat death will even allow you to survive full damage. So if you make sure this isn't on cooldown first, make sure it is ready, then you can attempt some pretty daring platforming, and you know that should you fuck it up, you have got cheat death ready to save your life. It is so powerful in so many situations. Your next 6 skills are going to go into spirituality, specifically general and buffs. Firstly, straight up 2 points in mana battery. Gaining 20 extra max mana is absolutely huge if you are a spellcaster, because obviously you'll be casting lots of spells. Eventually this is one you want to max out, but 20 max mana is a really decent increase for the early game. Next up, you will take both points of invigorating energy, which is going to convert 20% of your max mana into 20% additional max health. As you can see, at only level 35, which is only just into the second area of the game, I already have nearly 200 health and well over 200 mana, and that isn't even with a particularly efficient build. Next up, you want to take Necrotic Empowerment. This ability isn't amazing because there are many other ways to give you lots and lots of mana regeneration. The reason you're taking this is to get to Soul Siphon. Soul Siphon is amazing. Every time an enemy dies near you, they will leave their mana essence, which can be collected to restore 30 mana. As far as I'm aware, these mana essences stay there for hours, maybe indefinitely. And especially in boss fights with lots of adds, you can use these little mana injections to help you to continue to spell fling and spam your most powerful spells again and again and again without the fear of running out of mana. It's actually crazy. I don't think I've ever run out of mana since taking these 2 abilities. Also, before we move on to the next few points, invigorating energy isn't a flat number, it's a percentage, which means as your numbers get bigger and you keep getting more powerful, that bonus is just going to keep increasing. Any percentage in this game is absolutely huge. I realize I'm waffling a little bit here, so I'll try and speed up the rest of the magic focus build so that we can get onto the physical stuff as well. So the second last tree we're going to be looking at is under Dexterity and over to Movement. Here you want to take 1 point in Agility and then Athletic build. Again, Agility is decent, but the reason we want that is just to unlock Athletic build, which will give you 1 more long dash. If you didn't know how it works, as standard, without any extra perks, being in a light equip load will give you 3 dashes, a medium equip load will give you 2, and a heavy will give you 1. So if you are in a medium or a heavy equip load, this can effectively double the amount of dashes that you can do, which is going to give you huge amounts of sustainability and survivability in tougher fights. And actually, I did a short the other day on cheesing Abigor, which is a very, very powerful boss that you can fight early game that you're not really supposed to. and this skill point in particular allowed me to easily take Abigor down. And finally, now we're going over into endurance, and we're going to put 1 point into health and 1 point into stamina, just to give us a smidge extra survivability and sustainability. Again, because the health perk is percentage based instead of a flat number, this bonus is just going to keep increasing as we level up. And an extra 7 stamina is nothing to sniff at. In the early game, that's probably a good 10 to 15% increase for the sake of just 1 skill point. At this point, your core build is looking absolutely fantastic. So you can now branch out into basically whichever area of magic you want to focus on if you want to stay with a purely magic focused build. As you can see from my skill tree, I love summons in this game, so I've got an absolute ton of points in both summoning and general and buffs, so that I can make my summons extremely powerful. Some of these perks are just insane. When a summon dies, it heals me and my other summons. My summons gain health regen equal to 10% of my mana regen. Again, when a summon dies, my other summons gain 75% additional attack speed. And every time I deal a killing blow, all of my summons regain 10% max health and their physical damage is increased by 50%. There's so many crazy powerful skills for summons, but this applies for every tree. So if you would rather focus on combat spells, or if you would rather focus on wands, every tree is going to have these really powerful abilities at the end of the tree that's going to make specializing in that one particular field very beneficial. So now you know exactly how to start off your magic focused build, and then you can branch out into whatever you find the most fun. So next up, let's have a look at physical. The start of my recommendations for physical builds are largely the same as magic focused builds. You want to again start with 2 points in stealth, and just in case you don't care about magic and you skipped ahead in the video to physical, Cheat Death will grant you an extra life once every 4 minutes. This will give you a chance to run away, heal up and reposition, or even just flee the scene and come back when you're stronger. And it can even be used to avoid falling to your death, which will make you much more adventurous during your explorations. Next up, we are going to be taking a far more defensive approach than the magic focused build, because you're going to be face tanking a lot more hits. So I recommend you take 1 point in health and 1 point in stamina again to increase your max HP and stam for increased survivability and sustainability. And then you're probably going to want to go even tankier still, so you're going to be taking a few points in practicality, specifically under the armor tab. You want to split probably 4 points in whatever order best suits you between the first 4 skills, that is Born in Armor, Armored Skin, Endurance Training, and Inner Strength. 1 in each sounds good to me, or you can have 2 in one and 2 in another. Just pick between these 4 skills based on how heavy the armor is that you're wearing and how much your endurance stat is. Once you've done that and you've leveled up again, the next thing I would still recommend to do is take 2 points in movement for that additional dash charge. This is actually going to be even more useful for physical focus builds, especially if you're going for heavy armor, because as I mentioned previously, this will double your base dash charges from 1 to 2, which is genuinely huge for survivability in this game. And for the final 2 of your initial 12 points in a physical focused build, I would probably start to make your way through the general tree in the strength category to increase your raw physical damage output. Now obviously the first talent here is about melee damage, so if you are wanting to go with a ranged physical focus build, then this would change slightly. However, another tip I would give you would be to stick with melee weapons in the early game until you have enough skill points that you can unlock a large majority of the bow skill tree, because it's very tough to just use a bow as your only real source of damage in the early game. You just don't have enough available options yet, and lots of enemies are going to keep getting up in your face, and it's going to make the early game unnecessarily hard. So at this point, I would say to pump them 2 final points into the general tree, and then, just like we did with magic, this is where you can then start to specialize into the likes of one-handed or two-handed melee weapons, or bows if you prefer a ranged physical build. And then when you get to around level 25 and you're finishing off the first area, that's when you could potentially completely respec if you want to, and go hard into bows if you would like to do that, because a stealth archer build is very viable in this game. And when you've got a good like 300 or 400% bonus damage from stealth, and you also have lots of skills with your bow, then you can pretty much one-shot everything in the game from the shadows. Just be warned, it won't help you too much in boss fights until you have ways to go invisible and blind your enemies, such as the cheap death skill that we took right at the start. That's it for the top skills I advise you to take in the early game to help you beat Fall of Avalon. If you want to talk more with me and the rest of the community, make sure you join my Discord link down below. And apart from that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.